Okay, in this lesson I'm going to show you how to animate basic animation in After Effects. So I'm kind of going off the last video where I showed you how to import this stuff. So let's start with video. I'm just going to take this clip and drag it into this icon, so it's going to create a new document, new composition based on that video. So I have this clip that I want to use, but as you can see there's some space at the beginning and end that I want to get rid of. It's just some dead air. You can use page down and page up to go frame by frame. So I'm going to go, and that's where I want to start it. So I can either zoom in and I can drag that front end to where I want to start, or I can say hit Alt left bracket to kind of as a shortcut to get myself there. So now it'll start there. And I want it to end before it fades to black. So I want that to be the last frame, so I can hit Alt right bracket to end it there. That'll help me kind of trim down the edges. And this is kind of how animation is built in After Effects. You just have to, so let's say I'm dragging this other piece in here and I want to take a clip of that. You just have to find that area that you want to keep. Let's see, it just kind of flares up there. Let's start there. So I just want this very small clip here. It kind of goes out of focus there. So then I just use those same Alt left bracket and right bracket to find the clip I want, and then I just work that in the composition. So obviously the things that are on top are higher up in this timeline window are what are on top, just like layers are in Photoshop. So obviously you're going to see those first, so just remember that when you're moving stuff around. So that's basically how you'd edit video. Like I've said before, After Effects isn't great in editing video. It's usually better to edit the video in Premiere and then bring it in here. But that's how you can if you just have a little tiny bit of editing that you need to do. You can also, let's take a look at images quick. And like I said, with images, it's going to make them as long as they need to be, just because they're images and they don't really exist for a specific duration. You just say how long you want them to last. So let's say, let's go to Command K to look at my composition settings, and it's only 8 seconds long right now. Let's just make it a minute long. And then zoom out so there, because it's a bit more room to play with. And to hide these layers, I didn't really explain how I did that. I just click on this little eye icon on the left-hand side. You can also toggle sound on and off from those clips with the sound icons here. So looking at this image, you can see that it's much bigger. Simply by clicking on it, you can see I get the transform handles. And just like in Photoshop, you want to hold down the shift when you're resizing it to maintain proportions, because if you don't, you could squash it and stretch it, and that's just going to ruin the quality of your image. So I'm just going to resize that down. So let's say you want to pan slowly into that rose. How would you do that? If you bring down this little caret right here and go to your transform properties, well, if I want to zoom in on something, that's obviously scale. So I'm going to hit the little stopwatch there. That's just telling After Effects that I'm going to start animating that property. And then I want to also animate position, because it's a little bit to the right now. So I'm going to click on that stopwatch. And as you can see, when I do that, I get 2 little dots on my timeline here, saying that those 2 properties are ready to animate. Now all I have to do now is that's where I want to start, but let's say I want to zoom in on that rose. So I'm going to scale it up a little bit. And right now, if you roll over, you get a little finger with arrows. If you just click and drag, you can change that, or you can just say you want to just do it manually. You can just type it in if you'd like to. So now, since I moved the timeline indicator down and then changed the property, After Effects automatically made another keyframe for it. So now, if I hit let's say we want to preview it. This gray bar here is the time ruler, and that basically shows what you are working on. I don't want to preview the whole thing, I just want to preview the small area, so I can use B to set the in point and N to set the out point. So you see it resized it there. So now when I hit 0 to preview, it's just going to show me that small area. This, especially when you get into more complex projects, you want to preserve memory, so that's a good way to do it. So that's zooming in there. Now position, it works the same way. That's where I started with. I have a keyframe there, so I'm going to move to that other position. I'm just going to drag this towards the middle a bit, and you can see that I don't want that black bar there, so I'm going to adjust the scale so I can, there we go. So now if I hit 0, it's going to slowly zoom in, and you know that's a little fast. So I'm just going to, since it's an image, I can stretch it out, and I'm just going to move those keyframes out a bit. And then I move my work area out. Now if I hit 0, it'll be a little bit slower. Now you can go that much farther. This is moving at a constant rate from this point to this point. Sometimes a little easier in the eye if it eases into position. Easy way to do that is to go to a keyframe, right click, go to keyframe assistant and say easy ease in. You can see it changes the keyframe a little bit, and I'll do that to both of them. So now it'll slow down as it gets to that last keyframe. So it's a little easier on the eyes. So that's how you can animate graphics, and you can also animate opacity and rotation in a similar manner. Let's take a look at audio. Audio, typically when you bring stuff to After Effects, in terms of audio, you're trying to sync stuff up to it. So one thing you can do is if you just click that caret down to audio to waveform, you can actually see the waveform, which makes it a little bit easier if you want to time stuff to your audio file. So let's say, let's preview that. So say I want it to this to happen at the second note that plays, which I don't think you can hear, but you can see it. That's the first note, that's the second note. I can just simply move it into position and it'll happen as I need it to. So that's the basics of how you can use images, video, and audio in After Effects. Next we'll be looking at how you can link these files together to make animating them a little easier.